What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Financier. Today, we're going to talk about IPOs. It's a very hot day for this topic. Obviously, Coinbase is the major company that went to market today with a direct listing. I covered this in a video earlier last week, so you can go over that or check the techfinancier.com or the YouTube channel. If you look up my name, you can find out what I thought about the direct listing, how it may perform. It's performed not so well, but it's interesting. So that's a side note. If you got questions or concerns on that topic, happy to answer them. But today we'll talk about Coursera. It is the leader in online education. It is a big company. I'm surprised I missed this one, that it went public several weeks back in March, but it's a major business. I've used it many times. I use it since I was in college. So if you use Coursera, I think it's very timely for people that are on LinkedIn and Twitter that are reading, watching, thinking about these topics of new education resources, online classes, whatever they can do to get access to new material. Coursera is a really good example of democratizing the access to education, which is pretty exciting. I love the idea of it. It's worked really well. Going public to market is great for the EdTech industry, but we'll go over the IPO and discuss why this may not be a good business to get behind, but it's great to understand the economics, who they are, why they went public. We'll break all of that down. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. I'm checking out everything on Twitter and on LinkedIn, all the comments coming in, and on YouTube. So feel free to just reach out. So Coursera, they're providing universal access to world-class learning. They have over 77 million registered learners, which is a gigantic market. That's probably the size of, maybe half or, 3/4 of what the U.S. market is. But a universal platform will break down their product tiers soon. But they're a pretty big business in that sense that they've really achieved scale in online education. But there are some concerns with that. If you want to look up the ticker symbol, it's COUR. The company was last valued at $3.6 billion sometime last year. They did very well during the pandemic. So obviously that helped boost their valuation. I looked, it was around $6 billion. They had a private offering at a pretty good discount. So a lot of investors did very well going into this business. I think it was a no-brainer to make this investment last year, given the fact that online education is a very exciting place to be. But I think the big caveat, which we'll discuss, is campuses, on-campus learning will reactivate in the fall. So the need or demand for this type of online education will shift. It won't have the high growth rate it had in the last 12 to 18 months. Either way, they did pretty well. They raised $518 million in gross proceeds from the IPO. So they took a lot of money to really figure out how to recapitalize and invest back in the business. It was founded in 2012. So we're talking about 9 years from 2 Stanford alums. They just saw the opportunity to access online courses. I had been using Coursera and other open online course. A MOOC, massive online open courses that are very accessible. It's a great way to just learn. MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, all the major universities offer these programs. So people could just literally get access to an education from a top university. I learned a lot from econ, sciences, everything I can imagine, finance, banking, business. I made sure I took classes from all these major places. So I understand the demand for a Coursera to learn from other educational universities. So the company last year did about $293 million in revenue. It's 59% increase in sales. The year before, they were around 180, 190 million before. But the net losses actually widened to $67 million from $47 million. They just added over 12,000 new degrees for students over the last 2 years, and they just keep seeing user growth increase. Last year, it grew by 65%. So it's a pretty impressive, growth rate. They have over 150 universities, and then over 4,000 different courses on the platform. I'll talk a little bit about the platform courses and my thoughts on the education in a minute. But let me cover it. They have they partner with they do 3 types of revenue streams that I'll mention. One is through enterprise, consumer, and in partnerships. One of the major ones is through 330 government agencies across 70 countries. So you can see they've really built a task force. They do a lot to help the unemployed workers access free resources to get into business technology, data science, even with companies like Amazon and Google. So it's become a really good resource to really just access education. There's no reason to say that you can't access, or learn a new skill. So these guys have definitely led the case. There are a lot of other major players on LinkedIn. Lynda.com is a very popular competitor. YouTube is obviously the easiest and simplest and free. Udemy is pretty popular at a low price range. And Khan Academy is the leader in my eyes. The Sal Khan has just done an amazing job really making it accessible in this space. So this company has done, so let me actually talk about education for a minute. I think this is really important in online education. It's very accessible to get in front of anybody in the world today. But I think it's important to break up the hard and soft sciences or hard and soft educational pieces. And I think this is where online education does really well or very poorly. One, there are a lot of courses that don't need to be, if you break down a university, you got, $3,000 course per credit or, per 3 credits. Courses like English, accounting, business, those courses, they don't have really big advancements in learning. And a lot of those things can be taught by one professor and they learn by millions of students. It's not necessarily, it shouldn't be different from university to university. So those type of courses should be pretty free and democratized. I think that's where Coursera, Udemy, and YouTube come in. You go over basic accounting. I learned the accounting. It's the same type of class and same type of method I would learn at another university. It's not unique or different. And the professors aren't adding too much value. So to me, it doesn't make sense to charge the same amount of credit as opposed to a medical student who's paying for a very advanced science course or somebody who's studying chemistry and needs access to labs. So there's the soft skills that marketing and writing, those things aren't advancing too much, that you can learn online, you can learn indirectly or other methods like online education. But there are the hard sciences, medical, chemistry. You want to be a rocket scientist, or you want to do something very sophisticated in engineering and sciences, then you definitely need to pay the premium because it's worth it in many ways. And you really democratize access to hardware like labs and stuff. But in social sciences and soft skills, I think Coursera and other things like this should reduce the cost to cheaper skills, soft skills that are just accessible. They should be accessible to everyone. I think those are things that people need to learn. The arts, the writing, the creativity, marketing, business. Those are things that you can learn online coding from any of the online academies. So it's really important to begin to democratize these. I think 95% of colleges in the U.S. specifically are already bankrupt. They shouldn't exist. They have no strong brand name. They don't have an endowment. They don't differentiate, and they charge a very high premium to get in front of students. Students are paying. The other way around. Students are paying a very high premium to get into colleges, $40,000, $50,000 a year. It has no return on investment. The top 5%, let's say it's 100, 200 of the top schools in the country. They provide different ways to get into like different degrees, different paths that are unique and accessible, and they justify a premium. But 95% of like the other colleges shouldn't even exist anymore. It doesn't make sense. Everything should move online. They should have other forms of learning. And then we should just save those students a lot of that money. Maybe they should go to community college. I think community colleges will actually make a big turnaround in the next decade because it will be accessible from home. It'll be affordable, and they'll provide courses that are very competitive to major colleges that don't have a good brand name. And I can't really justify sports or other types of activities because you could do that on your own time. And we've proven that in the last 12 months with virtual learning, and you can just do things on your own. So there's no real need to be at a specific on-campus environment unless it's the top, 5% in the country. So that's my thoughts. So let's break down, in 2020, they acquired 12,000 new degree students. The average cost for a student for Coursera is about $2,000. Now, there's some concerns. I mentioned that they're widening their losses. It's costing them more money to acquire customers, to expand their product lines. Here is a breakdown of their product tier pricing. If you haven't checked out Coursera, I would recommend checking out the website. But you can see on this website, on my presentation here, that there's guided products all the way down to degrees. So the average customer spends anywhere from like $2,000 to $25,000, from my understanding, on Coursera. So their acquisition cost is pretty expensive. They have to spend probably $500 to $1,500 to acquire customers. But you can see their funnel is pretty good in the sense that they have great $10 projects. I think they do some free ones, free nano courses or nano degrees, which are very useful. They partner with Google. So I think it's a very interesting dynamic. The problem is that I don't see them turning around their profit and loss. They're not going to go from losing money in their best year of high growth, 50-60% revenue growth, to turning around the business to become profitable, and then shielding themselves with a competitive moat. I don't see that happening. I see a lot more competitors entering the space. I just saw Guggen from what did he build? He's founder of Udemy. He just built Maven.com to design cohort courses. I think it's a pretty exciting way to engage people, to create a community of course, like around a specific teacher. That's going to really change the dynamics. And in areas like Southeast Asia, the teacher is becoming the real determinant of whether people want to take a class or not. One teacher can teach 1 million students in China and Japan and other areas over there. That's just hasn't happened enough in the US yet, and I think it will happen. So these type of courses, I think, are important. The degrees are important, but I think it'll become more democratized and it'll become very niche. So if I want to take a finance course, I'm going to look for a specific professor, and I'm going to go ahead and attach myself to him and whatever courses she may be teaching, whatever my pathway is to success, I'm going to choose that career. So I think they're going to have difficulty showing profit over the long term. I'm not surprised. They have 3 forms of revenue, which is important to break down. The direct to consumer is definitely the most profitable. It really takes about 3 to 9 months to earn some type of either certificate or degree. The courses range from like $9 to $99 a month. And then the enterprise business, where they have like more than 2,000 companies paying for these services, or 25% of the Fortune 500. I think that's a pretty good pathway, but they have to focus more on training employees, getting people into the workforce. And then the last one is a degrees program, which people would look for like bachelor's or master's degrees, which is pretty unique. I think the best path for them to take is the partnerships with the corporations to train and retrain. I think this is the opportunity to do this. If you've done courses like this, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know your experience with online training or online education. If any of this, I asked a poll last week, and most people on LinkedIn and Twitter said, about 100 people said they've either paid below $25 or paid over $250 for a course. Those are really big, like a barbell, and they're paying a lot of money or they're paying very little to upskill. So I think it's important that there's that price range, and then people figure out what they want to do. But I think partnering with an enterprise and corporation is the path for profitability. It will result in higher price points and just become a better business overall. So I think that's the future. I wanted to do a quick overview on Coursera. I'll be doing a lot more of these. If you have specific companies or ideas that you want to talk about, just let me know. You can message me or comment me. I'll provide more input. Tomorrow I'll be doing one on tech services, a couple of buyout deals that have come out, and then I'll be doing more maybe weekly office hours. I get a lot of questions every week outside on Quora, on Quora. So you can just let me know what your thoughts are, what you're thinking about technology, economics, and investing, and I'll just cover it. I love doing this. It's quick and easy, and I love doing the slideshow presentations, and I connect with a lot of people offline. So again, follow me, like, subscribe, share. If you want to connect, if you have any feedback or you think you want to share it with somebody, feel free. And don't forget to check out my newsletter at thetechfinancier.com to stay in touch. Until next time, I'll see everybody very soon.